Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Today I will speak about white on red painted pottery in early Neolithic using comparative approaches for sites in the Balkans, the Aegean coast, and Western Anatolia. I think many of you know this map, which shows the different routes of the spread of farming and domestication of animals and plants. So today, I focused on modern-day Bulgaria, Western Anatolia, and the Aegean coast. And the map on the right side shows sites which have white on red painted pottery in the Balkans and Western Anatolia. So my orientation in the research is to try to understand what are the characteristics of interregional and intra-regional changes. Which kind of changes and continuities can we follow in appearance of stylistic and morphological groups throughout the regions? By doing this, I will use the statistical analysis to detect networks of decoration motifs and their connections to specific vessel forms and assess the level of contact and relationship between the regions. And while doing this, I will try to classify it and interpret the chronological and geographic distribution of different combinations of decoration styles. Pottery making was a signature component of the Neolithization process. The initial stages of pottery production in the Balkan shows great variability from one region to another. While white paint is rarely seen in Anatolia, it is one of the most distinctive features in the Balkans. Even if it is a small part of assemblages, it is spread over a wide geographical area. The radiocarbon dates show a heterogeneous picture. On the one hand, there are sites which have samples from seeds and bones. On the other hand, a lot of sites have samples from charcoal, which might be corrupted by an old wood effect. In opposition to older theories, the sites in Thessaly in Western Macedonia seems to mark the beginning of painted pottery. The sites Mavropigi and Neonicomedeia in Western Macedonia represent the first appearance of the white painted pottery in the region, around 6200 BC. However, white paint tradition is most widely spread in the period of Karanovo I, which begins after 5900 BC. In order to generate a comparable data sample, I created a database. The sample data was recorded from monographs, articles, and field reports. Due to the heterogeneous information, the entries could only be recorded as presence and absence data. 24 categories were created for the parameter vessel forms and 12 categories for the parameter decoration motifs, which are visible on the slide. These parameters were used for the statistical analysis, which you will see in the next slides. What kind of similarities and differences can we follow based on the decoration styles? The map on the left shows the sites which have curvy motifs, and on the right side, you can follow the settlements which have linear motifs with white paint. Both curvy and linear motifs are dominant in Sturma River Valley, Western Macedonia, Southwest Anatolia, and Northern Thrace. In Thessaly, Central West Anatolia, and Marmara region, curvy motifs are absent. So some decoration styles are only located in certain regions, which can be interpreted as intra-regional relations. Here, I would like to outline a unique example from Uğurlu in Gökçeada. It is a so-called altar or cult table shirt. The paint is white with red background. An inverted V-shaped motif is visible. No similar white painted altar has been found in the area before. The excavators in Uğurlu proposed a date around 6200 BC for the building where the shirt was found. And this makes the shirt one of the earliest altars with white paint in the region. This shirt combines the form of an altar, which is mainly dominant in Fikirtepe group, with white paint, which is absent in Fikirtepe group, but mainly present in Macedonia in that period. And for this information, special thanks to Burçin Erdoğan. The seriation matrix shows the densities of 12 decoration types sorted by regions. The size of the squares showed the densities of the sites in the regions. So if the cell is fully black, every side of the region has this specific type of the decoration. If the cell is empty, there is no representations in the region. While the majority of types are distributed quite widely, few motifs appear only in some regions. Checkerboards and leather motif are absent in most of the regions in Anatolia, Thessaly, and Western Macedonia, while being a common element in Struma River Valley and northeastern Bulgaria. Net and grid motifs are dominant mainly in modern-day Bulgaria and the Marmara region, while they are missing in other recorded areas. Such distributions could be interpreted as a local pattern and might hint to the hidden networks. Similarities and dissimilarities between the regions and sites can be explored using multivariate analysis. In order to get clearer results, every site and type which had less than 3 representations was excluded from the analysis. On this graph, 4 different geographical patterns, which mainly present regional differences, can be detected. Cluster 3 shows sites from Northern Thrace and Sofia Basin. The biggest cluster, which is here, cluster 2, is mainly located in the central part, as well as the negative part of the Y and X axis of the graph. Struma River Valley, northeastern Bulgaria, Western Macedonia, and Thessaly are concentrated in this diverse cluster. 2 smaller groups are on the top of the other big clusters. Southwestern Anatolian sites are seen in the left side. The last cluster represents sites from Western Marmara and Thessaly, which is on top of the right square of the graph. I also compared the position of the sites with motifs and forms colored by regions. Basic band motifs are mainly dominant in cluster 1, which is southwestern Anatolia, and cluster 4, which is Western Marmara and Thessaly. The different positions of the cluster are caused by different variation of ball types. The second cluster, which is located mainly in the center, represented sites in Western Macedonia, Thessaly, Struma River Valley, and northeastern Bulgaria. The concentration is dominated by different types of balls, jars with funnel neck, and dish and plates, as well as curvy and wavy bands are visible, and the ladder motif is also visible. This cluster includes the oldest sites in the analysis, which might indicate a chronological pattern. Cluster 3 represents the region of Northern Thrace and Sofia Basin. A combination of dots, spirals, net and grid, and some band motifs can be observed. The vessel forms are dominated by tulip-shaped vessels, cups, and deep balls. Combining the forms and motifs, it is possible to detect regional patterns. Considering the presence and absence data was used, it is interesting to observe that the quality of the documentation is pretty diverse. Network analyses were carried out using the software Usenet. In order to identify relationships among regions, 4 different phases were divided into 200-year time slides. As dataset, a simple one-node matrix was used, where shared motifs between the sites were counted. With this analysis, I will try to visualize patterns of similarities through time. The graphs were plotted on a GIS map. Strong relations are shown by thicker lines, and sites with bigger nodes represents more decoration motifs. Colors indicate the regions. In the earliest phase, which is 6300 BC and 6100 BC, there are not a lot of connections between the regions. The earliest sites from Thessaly and Western Macedonia show the strongest network. Hacılar 6 and Ulucak 5 are the only Anatolian sites with white on red painted pottery. The relationship between them is weak, while sites in Thessaly and Western Macedonia have strong similarities with Hacılar in Anatolia. This connection was proved in other studies as well, and it shows the interregional relations through the Aegean. Between 6100 and 5900 BC, the first sites in Struma River Valley, the Sofia region, and the Thracian place appeared. They have stronger connections with sites in Thessaly and Western Macedonia than Anatolian sites. Julinica, which we saw already in previous graph, has the strongest connections with Sofia region and Struma River Valley. Even if the connection is not that strong in the analysis, other studies indicate strong similarities between Ulucak 4 and Julinica 2. This graph of the time slide 5900 and 5700 BC shows the highest similarities and marks the peak of white paint. Modern-day Bulgaria and Thrace have relations with distant regions, but the strongest connections are visible in neighboring areas. Here you can see east and west. Such interregional connections could be interpreted as an independent development of certain motifs in certain regions. And the last stage, between 5700 and 5500 BC, the number of sites decrease and the strength of the connections are weaker. Using the multivariate analysis, it is not possible to identify broader chronological patterns, but regional trends are visible. Motifs of white on red painted pottery are diverse and complex, but still specific motifs and relations can be traced interregionally. Independent developments could be shown in early Neolithic Thrace. So interregional connections, as well as individual choices, played a crucial role in the distribution of white on red painted pottery in early Neolithic communities. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Jasna, on this really great presentation. You have done really amazing work, and you have really interesting results in your study. Are there any questions from the audience? I don't see anything in the chat. We will wait maybe for a while. We have one. Thank you very much. Could you please highlight what are the grounds for identifying clusters and variables? Could you say it?
Sorry, I can't see the, can you repeat the question, please?
Could you please highlight what are the grounds for identifying clusters and variables?
Actually, my correspondence analysis, I think that's what they're asking. I use the specific forms and the motifs, and I try to make the clusters depends on the decoration motifs and the forms. So that was the basic of the clusters, actually. So with these motifs and the forms, we can see more regional clusters than chronological way or line somehow. So that was based on motifs and forms.
Okay. Also, you have you more. Jasna wrote, this was great, thank you. Also, Claire Burke, great work.
Thanks a lot.
So congratulations once again. Yes. Do we have more questions for Jana in the time? If not, thank you very much once again. It was really, really interesting.
Thanks for inviting.
Thank you. Okay, we can move on our next presenter. Simon Radchenko and Nadja Kotova, double zigzag decoration in the prehistory of Eastern Europe. So I think Nadja will present.
No, I'm the one presenting.
Okay, okay. You can share your presentation.
Sure, right now. Tell me if you can see it. Okay, great. So, good afternoon, dear colleagues. My name is Simon Radchenko, and here I am, and my co-author, Dr. Kotova, will talk about this double zigzag decoration in the prehistory of Eastern Europe. A short terminological premise is that when we refer to double zigzag decoration, we actually mean this double parallel zigzag lines. And what is more important, when we refer to Eastern Europe, we mean the steppe and forest steppe zone of Eastern Europe from Mesolithic and forward. These spots on the map highlights the sites that are involved in today's presentation. Do please notice that the Mesolithic ones, which is before 6000 before current age, are located in the Dnipro basin and Don basin. So this is the western part of the area. This is important because all this story about double zigzag decoration, it starts on this Mesolithic sites, and it refers to special type of sites. We aware that different type of zigzags are known from late Paleolithic onward, and it's mostly multiple zigzags or singular ones, and that's neither a story of double zigzag nor of Eastern Europe. And in Eastern Europe, the double zigzag decoration appears first in rock art and portable art specimens in Dnipro Basin and Don Basin, like this image from Kamena Mohyla rock art site, and then others, which is located here, in the very west of the Eurasian steppe belt. And then there's other examples of this specimens. What is important here is this double zigzag decoration on Kamena Mohyla goes together with singular one, but what is more important, with fishing symbols, with the images of fishes and the fishing related things. And we see the same pattern for the fishing oriented societies and the inhabitants of riverbeds in Ukraine and in Don Basin. That's the example from Mesolithic of this pattern. The double zigzag ornamentation on the settlements that are located near on river banks and oriented on the fishing, river-oriented economy. That's why the idea of double zigzag usually is associated here with ideogram of water, though this can't be stated for sure, but we see that it is presented in this particular context. And for Kamena Mohyla, it is solid that this is related to the images of a fish, of fishes. Later in Neolithic, we see the same pattern of finding these portable art specimens on the settlements on river banks related to the river-oriented economy. But the interesting thing that it does not correspond to the ornamentation of pottery, and we don't actually see the double zigzag ornamentation on pottery sites in Dnipro Basin. Only one exclusion is the site in Russia, which is Rakushishny Yar on the Don Basin, the easternmost one. However, the double zigzag ornamentation is presented on the portable instances from stone and bones. And later, I'm not sure if you see the dates because of Zoom interface, but let's try. And later, during the Neolithic, this, which is in this case 553-50 before current age, the double zigzag ornamentation starts to appear in Dnipro Basin and in Don Basin on the pottery specimens, on the vessels, but disappears from the portable art objects. And the number of portable art objects decreases anyway, but the ornamentation is absent there and it's presented mostly on the pottery products. We can summarize it in this kind of table just to present that indeed these double zigzag scenes first appear in Mesolithic and then in portable art during early Neolithic stage, and then kind of migrates to the pottery production, both in Dnipro Basin and Don Basin. And that's the general model of how it acts in the western part of this Eastern European steppe. But the interesting thing and the important one is that this is not the case for the whole area. And this model doesn't work for the eastern part of this place. And first of all, due to the absence of the double zigzag ornamentation on the same appearance stage during the Mesolithic, we can't find it on the portable art specimens that are supposed to be featured with double zigzag if this model is working, if it works well. Instead, we see the double zigzag patterns in Volga Basin and in North Caspian Sea already in Mesolithic on the pottery scenes. Like this is 5500s BC, and on the same stage we supposed to see it on the portable art specimens if the model is working, but there are no portable art specimens featured with double zigzag ornamentation. On contrary, we see it on the pottery, not on the portable specimens. And this is the case for the whole period. And then the ornament changes, but the double zigzag is presented further through Neolithic, both in Volga Basin and Northern Caspian Sea region, again, without portable art specimens. So there's a different pattern, a different logic of this ornamentation development. We see it in the middle Neolithic stage and generally through the whole Neolithic part. And then the late Neolithic works like this. We see the same patterns. They become more complicated, more geometrized, and the style ornamentation might differ, but the double zigzag is still presented in somehow in complex contexts, somehow in simpler ones, but they are there, and not on portable specimens. So there's a different kind of model, which ended up with analytic sites, and here is the same again. We can summarize this into another pattern. This clearly shows that the model is different because we don't have double zigzags in Mesolithic, and instead we have it on early Mesolithic pottery, and then its development on the pottery of the different sites and cultures in the region. The following question would be how this double zigzag ornamentation would appear in this eastern part of the areal and what happened there. And the assumption is that the double zigzag ornament was adopted by the Volga Basin inhabitants from Celtic mineral culture, generally together with the pottery production in general, with pottery production structures in general, unlike the Western model. Yeah, and that leads us to the idea that generally there are two hypothetical models of how the double zigzag ornamentation develops through ages in different parts of this Eastern European steppe. It develops first during the late Mesolithic, and here in this Western model, in the Western concept, it is connected right to the ideogram of water and connected to the fish and river-oriented societies. And then develops through these societies in portable art specimens, in Surskaya culture, and further in Rakushishnyarska culture on Don Basin, and then develops in late Neolithic and also Neolithic societies. So once the double zigzag ornamentation migrates from portable art specimens to pottery, it remains on the pottery and disappears from portable art scenes. But first we know it from Mesolithic non-pottery time, from rock art, mostly on Kamena Mohyla, because that's the biggest and the only one large complex in the region featured with rock art of this age, and on portable stones. And there's an Eastern model which lacks of portable stones and general portable art specimens featured with double zigzag ornamentation. And the first time we know these ornaments, they are located on the Neolithic pottery. So it was probably adopted from Celteminar. Then it's presented only on pottery specimens, not on the portable art ones, unlike Neolithic, where generally we know it on portable art and later on pottery, except for this one site of Rakushishnyarska or Rakushishnyar in the Don Basin. And then this pattern is used to decorate pottery from early Neolithic forward. Therefore there's two hypothetical models that differs by each steps, and generally the Western one is Dnipro and Don Basin, and the Eastern one is Volga Basin, especially its forest steppe and steppe zones, and North Caspian Sea region. There are some other considerations rather than conclusions, that we still lack enough chronological data to provide the strict diachronic model, if any is possible in general. And definitely to test both hypothetical models of this double zigzag ornamentation development, we need to receive more data on this particular theme. And obviously only the Western model, in a Western model, we can tie this double zigzag ornamentation to some ideographic sense, which is not related to the pottery production in general, which is just exist as a sense. So there we might assume that this is ideogram. The ornament interpretation is a slippery scene in general, but in Eastern part we don't have this link to the cultures, beliefs, etc. at all, and we need to search for another meaning, for another patterns, if we want to consider this as a part of ornamentation, a part of symbolic system. So that's generally it, and